Happier, healthier, and richer? We all want that, right? So how do you get there? We've got the answer for you on today's Queer Money. You're listening to Queer Money episode 221, and by the end of this show, you'll have 10 daily habit ideas that you can implement to reduce stress, bring more happiness into your life, get you feeling better both physically and mentally, and finally, and the best part, tips to get you on a solid path to financial independence. We make the Queer Money podcast for you, so please email your money questions to questions@debtfreeguys.com or post them in the Queer Money Facebook group, and we may answer it in an upcoming episode. There's personal finance for the masses. This is not personal finance for the masses. This is Queer Money. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Capital One's checking and savings accounts have no fees and no minimums. And with one of the best saving rates in America, you can rest easy watching your money grow with no fees to bring you down. You can open an account in about 5 minutes, which means you are only about 5 minutes away from getting your savings to grow with one of the nation's best rates. Who wants to be happier, healthier, and richer?
Me?
Right. If you didn't answer yes to that, then you've achieved what everyone is seeking. And you should probably have your own podcast, right?
Yep, I'll subscribe.
If you did answer yes, then you're like nearly every other human, but especially folks in the LGBT community who are longing for a better life. So how do you get there? Well, one of the best ways to get there is through habits. Why habits? Well, it's interesting, and I go back to this quote a lot. It's a quote from Gandhi where he basically said, guard your thoughts because your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your destiny, which I think is what many of us look at is we want a better destiny, we want a better outcome in life, and what is one step back? It's our habits. Right? So if we want a better outcome in life, we have to have better habits. And what's also interesting, and many of you know this from what John and I have mentioned either on this podcast or in the Facebook group, that we do a lot of reading around quantum physics, around what goes on in the body, especially in the brain, based on what we think about, the emotions that we have. And there's this saying out there that says that this idea that your neural pathways get stronger the more they're used or the more we do something with them. And neural pathways are basically created every single time we have a brand new experience. It's basically the connection that goes from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. And these neural pathways get stronger the more we use that same neural pathway over and over again. And the more we use that neural pathway, the easier it is to remember to do that same thing. And the more we do it, it becomes part of our subconscious thinking, right? Think about the idea of back when you were first learning how to drive, especially for those of you who have learned how to drive. When you first were learning how to drive, you had to concentrate really, really, really hard, right? But now many of us drive down the road and we barely are even thinking about driving. That's the whole idea of these neural pathways becoming stronger. This is the key, or one of the ways, on how we reduce bad habits and create new good ones. So we want to talk about some simple, easy habits that we can put into our lives that help us become happier, healthier, and wealthier.
So today's episode is going to be broken into 3 chunks. First, we're going to talk about daily habits that'll make you happier. Then we'll talk about daily habits that'll make you healthier. And then finally, we'll talk about daily habits that'll make you richer. We'll save the money for last. So to kick us off with the habits that'll make you happier, I'm going to quote none other than Oprah Winfrey. Because she said, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. And so our first suggestion to be happier is to wake up grateful. List 5 things every day that you're grateful for. The idea here is similar to what David was saying, is we're creating neural pathways. Some of us are addicted to negativity, and especially in the environment that we're living in today, with all the challenges that society is facing today, most of us wake up and we pick up our phone and we start reading all the bad news that's out there. And there's just a plethora of bad news out there. And so we're almost starting our day off seeking negativity. And then we carry that through us the rest of the day, whether we're working from home or we're working at the office. And sometimes it could just feel like everything is going against us. But I think most people have had the experience where they've said to themselves, enough, I just can't be negative anymore. I need to think positive. And just that minor thought can start to change the trajectory of your day. And so the idea here is focus more on what you have to be happy about and try to focus less on all the challenges that we're dealing with as a nation or that we're dealing with as a community or even as you're dealing with as an individual. But focus more on things to be happy about, and you'll start to experience more positivity in your life. You'll attract more of the good things that you want and repel more of the bad things that you want. And David and I have been advocates for this for so many years. It's one of the reasons why we include it in the Fabulous Life combo that's available for you at debtfreeguys.com/221. The Fabulous Life combo includes in the daily habits exercise, writing down things every single day that you're grateful for. Get in the habit of focusing on those things. It can be the same things every day. It can be a different thing every day, whatever works best for you, but focus on reasons to make yourself happier and try to dissipate or focus less on all the things that we have to be stressed and angst-ridden about.
That's a great one. I love that. We do this exercise every single day where we list something, at least one thing that we're grateful for, but we do multiples in our journals. Before I go on to the second one, I want to ask you a question. How do you feel when someone says to you, I love you?
Twitter paid it.
Well, obviously, there's multiple kinds of love, right? I think in the Greek language, there were 4 or 5 different words that were used for love. In the English language, we're somewhat constrained, but the meaning have just as many varieties to it when we say the words, I love you. And so that's one of the ones we want to encourage you to develop is the habit of saying, I love you to people in your life, especially to the person or persons that you spend the most time with. So think about your spouse or your partners or your parents, your siblings, your best friends, individuals that are around you on a regular basis that you thoroughly love having them in your life. Now, remember, doesn't mean that you thoroughly love having them every single moment in your life, but remember how you feel when one of them puts their arm around you and says, I love you. Isn't that a feeling that you want to convey to other people as well? Getting in the habit of saying, I love you on a regular basis, especially daily, will open up not only you, but others to more love. Now, obviously, there's many things that can get in the way from us expressing that love. Unfortunately, our finances can be one of those. Oftentimes when you talk about finances, that can be a difficult thing. We remember that there was an episode where we had Sam from Honeyfi on, and he was talking about how couples that talk about money together oftentimes have a better relationship and better sex. So if you want to be able to say I love you more, maybe working on your finances is one of the keys there. And we have the Couples Money Guide as a way for you and your partner or partners to work on money together. And that can improve the potential for you to be able to say, I love you.
Exactly. Recommendation number 3 under the category to be create habits that'll make you happier. And that is to smile and say hello to 5 people a day to the extent that you can do that. Might be a little bit hard during COVID season, but to the extent you can, that would be an awesome thing to do. Not only will that help you create more positivity in your life, but that'll help create positivity and uplift somebody else's life. There's a study done a couple of years ago that people's entire day can change or be improved simply by having somebody, whether it's a stranger or someone they know, say hello. How are you? Smiling at them. And so if you can help spread that kind of joy to other people, not only will it make them happy, but it'll make you happier. So consider smiling and saying hello to at least 5 people a day if you can. David's gotten really good at this. We go for morning runs every morning here in Las Vegas, and there is unfortunately a big homeless population here. And very often when we go for morning runs at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, there are people out walking around and sitting on the street or sleeping. And David's gotten really good at saying hi to as many people as he can while we're running. And we're not exactly sure what return that's having, but it can't help but expect that it's having a positive effect on these people's lives.
It is interesting because sometimes some of these individuals are completely shocked. I'm surprised you brought this up, but sometimes these individuals are completely shocked that someone even acknowledged them. And that can be the case for individuals in this situation that are homeless, but it can be the same thing for a colleague at work or just a person that you see out in public. Sometimes acknowledgement is something that we're craving, and just having someone acknowledge us is a great way to put a boost of serotonin into your system, but also into someone else's. Those were our 3 tips around being happier. Implement those in your life, and the great thing about those is all 3 of those are free. They're so easy for us to do on a regular basis. If you are implementing those or have implemented something similar, we'd love to hear your comments about the kind of impact that that is having on your life. So share that with us in the Queer Money Facebook group. How does your bank support the LGBT community? Not at all? For Pride in June? Or 365 days a year? Capital One proudly supports the LGBT community throughout the year. Maybe it's time to support a bank that supports us. Go to debtfreeguys.com/cafe for more info.
Hi, this is Manny Cosme with the Equality Chamber of Commerce, DC metro area. If you're a small business or nonprofit, check out our monthly networking event and of course our annual mega networking event to grow your business. Check us out at www.eccdc.biz. See you soon. Our next 3 here are habits around how to be healthier. Now, we know that healthy sometimes is physical, but it's also sometimes mental, and that sometimes the physical helps us mentally and sometimes the mental helps us physically. So we want to talk about these ways to get better with our health. The first one is one that I think that a lot of us kind of forget. And it's easy to get caught up in everyday life and to get sidetracked and not do something like this. But one of the best ways is to reduce stress. Reduce the stress that you have in your life by being a little bit more simple and intentional about your life. And one of the easiest ways to do that is leaving for work early. If you're driving, even if you're not driving, but if you're driving, go the speed limit. Rather than being so aggressive. You hate it when people are aggressive to you on the road, right? Well, if you're driving and you have enough time, you don't have to be aggressive. You can go the speed limit and enjoy your ride to work. And when you're doing that, or if you're commuting via public transportation, enjoy some sort of audio that can continue to help you build this healthier mental and physical life. We would suggest trying audiobooks on Audible, or you can continue to listen to this podcast or other podcasts. Sometimes just listening to some really chill music can really put you in a good mood and help reduce that stress.
Suggestion number 2 to be healthier, that is to go for at least a 15-minute walk at least once a day. We don't need to repeat this, but study after study after study shows that just even the simple act of walking a little bit, this is why everybody's tracking their 10,000 steps, can have a significant impact on your health. And so do at least 15 minutes of walking a day to the extent that you can. Again, we think this is so important. We've included it in the Living Fabulous Daily Journal section of the Fabulous Life Combo. So if you want a place to log your exercises as we do, to keep track and see how you're improving and how you're changing, go to debtfreeguys.com/221 and get your free copy of the Fabulous Life Combo.
This is also a great one. I used to do this when I was working in corporate America on a regular basis, that I would get out and I would do 2 laps around the parking lot where I worked. More often than not, I did that when either I was feeling stressed and needed to get away, or just as a reminder to myself, hey, get up from your desk, get away from work. And that was kind of my way of taking a break. And it not only reduced stress, but it did help me physically. I got out in the sun more often than not, and it felt good. All right, number 3
we know that in order to be healthy, we have to put healthy in, right? If we put good things in our body, then good things are going to come out. And I'm talking about
energy.
energy and our brains, right? If we put crap in, crap is going to come out. So we want to encourage you to eat more raw fruits and vegetables. These are simple things that we can do to put the kind of energy that we need into our bodies if we want to perform better. Exercise is one thing, but if you're exercising then eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's every night.
You bring that example up a lot.
I know.
haven't had a pint for several months now. I'm on a diet.
Right. Well, what we put in is a great way of us encouraging our bodies to perform better. And it's so easy to grab something like this to throw in a bag and take it as a snack to work. More often than not, we feel like we're pressured when it comes to our daily routine. Pack these up at the beginning of the week, or just take an apple. There's so many simple ways that we can incorporate more fruits and vegetables into our body. And eating right is so important. We want to encourage you to try to do that more. Meal planning is a great way to do that.
Exactly. And you don't necessarily need to change your whole diet. Just try to infuse 3 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Slowly build up to more to the extent that you can, but just include these fruits and vegetables into your diet, and doesn't necessarily mean you have to take other things out. Just make sure you get that fiber.
You can keep the Ben and Jerry's.
Thank you. That's what I was just rationalizing. All right, the money section, probably what everybody's excited to hear the most, right? 4 habits that you can adopt on a daily basis to ensure your wealth. Habit number 1 under habits to be richer: log your spending. You simply can't improve what you don't measure. I mean, everybody who's in business knows that. You've got to measure something in order to be able to figure out exactly how to improve it. And for most people, not everyone, most Americans have a spending problem, not necessarily an income problem. So you can't improve how you're spending your money so you have more money available to save and invest if you're not actually tracking it. And we're big advocates of logging and tracking our spending. We include the spending analysis as part of the credit card payoff plan, of which we have many members, and we also include it in the Budget Buster bundle. So if you're looking to simply to get a budget or to improve your budget, sign up for the Budget Buster bundle, and we do a spending analysis there where we figure out how to track all of your spending, so we can figure out the 1 or 2 or 3 outliers that we could rein in and have the most effect on your spending and have more money to save and invest. We also incorporate in the Living Fabulous Social Life calendar a section on the calendar to track your spending. So a lot of us, most of us, many of us in the queer community, our social life is a big expense for us. It's one of our biggest expenses. So we have the calendar to be able to track and manage our social life, while also on the same pages for each month, we incorporate a section to track your spendings to make sure that this fabulous social life that you're having isn't putting you into fabulous amounts of debt. So if you want to get a copy of that, sign up for the free version of the Fabulous Life Combo at differentguys.com/221. And then if you're interested, sign up for the Budget Buster bundle, where you can also get that full spending analysis as well as access to the dynamic budget.
All right. Point number 2 under habits to be richer is one that I think many people may look at you with a little bit of a blank stare when you say this is going to make you richer, but hear us out. Create a daily to-do list. Now, I want to caution you right now when it comes to this whole idea of creating a to-do list, but the first thing is create the to-do list so that you can cross items off. Crossing an item off of a to-do list has been shown to give individuals a motivational boost. You feel good about accomplishing and completing something. Now, one of the ways that it can detract is if your to-do list is way too long. So we want to encourage you to create a to-do list that focuses on maybe the 3 to 5 essential things that you need to get done this day to contribute the most value to where you're trying to go in life. And this is a great thing to do at work. A lot of us get so sucked into this needing to do everything for everyone else that we forget to do what's important for ourselves first, right? So people come up to you and say, hey, can you do this for me? Or you get an email and somebody says, I need some help with this. Or, just kind of these regular daily distractions. If you focus especially when you get into work every morning, write down these 3 or 5 things that you have to get done. These are the most important things to get done. Then when somebody says to you, can you do this for me? You have basically an out that says, actually, I'm focusing on this more important thing. Can I get back to you on that when I'm done? And it allows you to have the time and the drive to get your important things done first. And this is something that we've learned from the books that we've been reading. John and I read a lot. As I mentioned earlier, one of the books I'm reading right now is called Essentialism. And that's one of the things that's contained in this book is this idea of we can't have too many priorities. The fewer priorities we have, the more likely it is that we're going to accomplish something. And we know that at work, the people who end up getting bonuses, raises, promotions are individuals who show themselves to be effective completers, right? Lots of us can start things, but are you able to effectively complete something? Are you an executor? This is a problem I've had over my life is I'm an idea person, not an executor. But the more I have got used to using checklists and creating these kinds of plans, the more I became an executor and the more I improved on doing the job that I was basically hired to do, but then given the opportunity to do even more.
Exactly. One of the quotes that I love in another book that we're reading, The One Thing, kind of, I think, summarizes this all. And basically what the quote is it says, what is the one thing that you can do such that it makes everything else easier or unnecessary? And I think that applies to a lot of entrepreneurs, but I think it also applies to people who work for someone else. What is the one thing that I can do that makes everybody else's life easier or all of our other tasks unnecessary? And if you can show yourself to be that effective at your employer or be that effective in your own business, you're going to be exponentially more productive and produce better results and then attract better results. Tip number 3 under ways to be richer, and that is to read a personal finance blog or a motivational blog or be a part of a personal finance or motivational newsletter, whatever it is that you need to kind of be inspired and engaged. We mentioned earlier that many of us are getting distracted with the negative news that's out there. And while it's definitely important to be aware of what's going on, we don't want that to consume us so much that it hurts us. So one of the ways that we can maybe counter some of the bad news is to find resources such as personal finance blogs, podcasts, motivational blogs, speakers, TED Talks, whatever. Find inspiring and educating information out there to sort of lift you up and make you feel a little bit better about the direction that the world is going today. Because we need positivity to sort of get us out of these dark times. We would also encourage you, kind of aligned with that, is to join the Queer Money Facebook group. Every Friday, we have a Fire Friday where we feature another personal finance blog's Fire article. Fire stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And what that is, it's a movement for people to become financially independent as soon as possible so they can sort of live the life that they want. They don't necessarily have to work for an employer if they don't want to. Now, you might not necessarily be seeking to retire early or wanting to live a life where you're working for yourself or you're traveling the country. But what's great with this information is that there's always a nugget of wisdom that you can use regardless of what your goals are to increase your financial security so you can live that richer life. And that's always focused on a positive perspective.
All right. And now point number 4 in habits to be richer. We know that individuals who save and then turn around and invest that money are oftentimes the individuals who get richer, right? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you have available after you've done your spending to put into growing it, right? And so what we want to encourage you to do is to write down one free activity on your list of things to do, whether that's in the Fabulous Life Journal or in the combo. There's actually a section where you can look at or add to activities. If you add one free thing to do to your list, you're going to have this growing list of free activities that allow you to reduce your spending or divert some of your time where you would normally be spending into an activity that is enjoyable and free that allows you to build that gap between
how much money you're making and how much money you're spending. And you can then turn that into savings and investing and growth for a better life in the future. So those are our 10 tips for you. I want to remind you that Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's, I think, a lot of us get sucked into this idea, right? Of we just do the same thing over and over again. We live our daily lives the same, and we expect some sort of amazing thing to happen to us, or we're praying for some sort of amazing thing to happen to us. If we want change, we have to change, and habits are the key to that. So start simple, create some new simple habits, and go from there. Thank you for listening to another episode of Queer Money. Here's your Queer Money takeaway from this episode. Go to debtfreeguys.com/221 to get your free Fabulous Life combo. That will allow you to implement all of these 10 habits. We make the Queer Money podcast for you, so please email your money questions to questions@debtfreeguys.com or post them in the Queer Money Facebook group, and we may answer it in an upcoming episode. This podcast is sponsored by Capital One. Capital One is redesigning the banking experience by offering simple, straightforward, and seamless ways for you to bank from almost anywhere. So banking fits into your life, not the other way around.